Real estate is about freedom, choice freedom, time freedom, and money freedom, and the impact you can make with that freedom. But it doesn't come without cost. Your freedom takes work. That's why Neil Timmins brings together the tools you need to build your real estate legacy, from tips and tricks to interviews with industry titans. It's all here in one place. Real Grit. Let's get to it.
What if I told you can make 20 times the return of a single family fix and flip on your next big deal? Well, it's actually possible. It's possible inside the world of commercial real estate. Say, I'm inviting you to this free challenge. It starts August 15th. It's totally free. It's a 5-day challenge where I'm going to take you and deep dive into the world of commercial real estate, more specifically, capital multiplier properties, what that is, how we identify them. I'm going to show you how to identify them, how to evaluate them, and how to lock them up risk-free. I'm going to give you all the paperwork to do it. It's totally free. You can sign up to join us at www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. That's www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. And I'll see you in the challenge. How to make more money right now. You're throwing away 30 to 40% of the leads that just don't qualify for your traditional methodology of buying at a wholesale basis, says Eric Brewer, who's coming right up on today's show. And he's going to show you exactly what you can do about it and how to cash in. Coming right up, Eric Brewer. Welcome to Real Grit. I got Eric Brewer with me here. I'm excited to talk to him today. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Man, good to see you. I appreciate the time. Hey, tell me, we all started someplace in real estate. How did you even get into this business?
I was in the car business for about 8 years, sort of cut my teeth in business in the automobile business. Got burned out after sort of working my way up through the ranks, and made a decision one day I wasn't going to be a car guy anymore, and took a few months off and did some soul searching and consulted with people that I trust, and realized that real estate would probably be a good place for me to transition to, because I had some experience in sales and marketing, and made the decision to start in the mortgage business because I had such a strong background in finance when I was in the automobile industry, and it gave me a significant advantage the 8 years that I was in the car business, knowing the ins and outs of leasing and special finance. And automobile business has creative finance just like real estate does. The place that I worked were pros at that, and we sold more cars than almost anybody in the state because of it. So got into the mortgage business and was basically cold calling mortgage leads in 2005, and had a lot of success with it. And after doing that for just shy of a year, my old boss from the car business called me and was getting into real estate. Had a high enough opinion of me that he thought of me to work with him as he opened that business and got it off the ground. And we had lunch one day and he heard a radio commercial about flipping houses, and was very intrigued by it and pitched me on it. And 2 weeks later, him and I were out chasing ugly houses. So that's how I got into the house business.
Chasing ugly houses and focused from the get-go on flipping that segment of the business.
Yeah, when we got started, we bought almost everything off the MLS. There was tons of bank owns on the market back then. We were able to make 10 offers, 15 offers a week and get a deal. So, we bought about a house a week when we started. Cut my teeth in construction and got my face punched in quite a bit, learning how that goes. And slowly but surely started to do more and more deals. Eventually started to learn about direct to seller, and here I am 16 years later.
Bring me through the 2008 era. What did that look like in your world?
It's kind of crazy. It's become a real popular topic recently, right? Because there's a lot of things that might feel a little bit like 2008. I don't remember a ton about it. And I think it's because it was all happening so fast, right? And you're just focused on trying to survive. The two most important things I remember is, number one, there was about a 3-day span where every deal we had pending to be sold fell apart. And it was like, something out of the Twilight Zone, where buyer's agents would call me and say, "Hey, our deal's falling apart." And, what's happened? The appraisal loan? No, the mortgage lender's out of business. They closed their doors. No one's answering the phones. I'm sure you've heard about it, blah, blah, blah. Deal's off. Buyer can't get approved. We're done. So that was kind of crazy, right? Like literally every deal we thought we were selling for 60 days was no longer a deal. Right. And then what we realized is that, there were good people that had $10,000 down and 650 credit scores that couldn't get approved anymore.
Right. So
one of the thing that we started doing differently is we did installment sales agreements. Mm-hmm. So we would get, $10,000, $15,000 down on $120,000 homes, borrow money from our banks at 5%, and then we were lending it to these folks to 8 to 10%. So we did that for about two and a half years, had almost 150 installment sales agreements. They were very profitable.
Yeah.
And we would, buy these homes, fix them up just like we were, prior to 2008. So that was probably the biggest pivot that we made. And then it quickly got really easy to buy homes, right? Like 2007, everybody was fighting for a deal. Late 2008 and early 2009. I mean, I remember buying HUDs for 30 cents on the dollar, buying, REOs for 30 cents on the dollar.
Yep.
So it got really easy to buy and really hard to sell in 2008. There was tons of inventory to buy. But most people couldn't get approved for a mortgage.
It seems like it's oftentimes at the ends of the extreme, right? It's one or the other. You can buy easily, but you can't sell. Or, like in 2002, really in 21 is probably the best year ever, right? It's super easy to sell, but it's not as easy to buy.
Yeah, it was like the last 3 years, it's been excruciating to try and get a lead and get a deal because there were so many people fighting for it. But bet your bottom dollar if you had a house that resembled a deal, you could send out 2 text messages and post it on Facebook Marketplace, and you'd have 30 people fighting.
Gone. Right.
Yeah.
Well, the pendulum swung really hard over a 10-year period from one direction to the other. And, you through that 2008 era, you pivoted into the owner finance segment. And the other segment here, you have, I don't want to say pivoted, but you certainly have added on to what you do already really well to be able to extract dollars from maybe some homes that look pretty, some homes at the different end of the market from the retail segment of the population. Maybe share a little about that and what you've added on.
Yeah. So what I'm doing now with Novations has become super popular.
Yeah.
We've taught it to just over 350 people now in the last 18 months in the US. And we actually have 2 clients in Canada. And it actually started though in 2008, right? So in like 2006, 2007, when we started, all of our flips were selling quickly and no one was using FHA financing. Because there was all these subprime mortgage products out there, 80-20 loans. I mean, I remember doing deals with people that had 500 credit scores and no money down, and they were buying properties.
Yep.
And as soon as the market crashed, everybody was using FHA loans. It was like really the only way.
Correct.
You could get approved without 25% down and a 9,000 credit score. So as a flipper, that created a problem for me because I'd only owned these properties for 4 to 6 weeks. And with FHA, there's seasoning requirements, meaning, you can't even write an offer on an investor's property until the 91st day. And then it takes another, say, 45 to 60 days to close. So I was flipping homes in 8 weeks, and now it was going to look more like 6 months. So when you're managing, a pipeline of 50 active renovations, selling 20 homes a month, that would have been a huge lift. I would have had to go borrow a bunch more money.
Yep.
I would have had a lot more properties in my pipeline. My cash conversion cycle was being, 4X'd. So I started searching for solutions and I came across Novations. And effectively just Novation just means new versus if you think like the classic way of wholesaling, they use an assignment. Mm-hmm. And the problem with an assignment is it's not a financeable transaction. So when you assign a property, you have to sell it to a cash buyer or someone using, hard money commercial financing. A Novation allows you to sell your property to a retail buyer that's using FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, conforming loans. So I mean, it opens up all these other opportunities, right? Like I talk to investors all the time and I'll say, how many people that you talk to have a decent house they'd like to sell? They love everything about what you offered them except for price. And they're like, well, literally everybody.
Right.
And what you find is when you dig in and really start to learn about Novations, and then you pay attention to all the people that tell you no when you make them a cash offer, it's most often the fact that they have a decent house. They don't really have any life circumstances that make them distressed, and they'd like to sell, but they're not going to give it away. Like people will actually say that. It's like, Neil, I kind of like what you offer, but I'm not going to give it away.
Right.
But they might leave 15% equity in the deal. Now, most investors, when they're looking at that, they need 30% equity minus renovations.
Mm-hmm.
You're making offers on properties and you understand Novations, you need 15 to 20% equity with no renovation costs built in, because that's the one very different thing about what I do with Novations. They've long been taught as a fix and flip strategy where, you like partner with the seller, then you rehab the house and sell it and split the proceeds. I'm like, man, I'm very particular about partnerships. And if I was going to partner with anybody, it dang sure wouldn't be a homeowner. Right. Especially when you're doing complex things like making renovation decisions and working with contractors, and then, having to share in the decisions of them about who you're going to sell it to, for how much, when it closes, sellers help, all that stuff. So what we teach is basically a wholesale approach to Novations on properties that are in wholesale condition, but we can sell at retail values.
Properties at wholesale conditions that you can sell at retail values.
Correct.
Yeah, it seems to me like the difference between a wholesale and a novation. A wholesale, oftentimes you're assigning, or maybe the difference between an assignment and a novation is you're assigning the contract. And in a novation, you're actually selling the house.
Yes.
Yeah, that is material. That's materially different without closing on it. Yes.
Yeah.
And as a result, so many of the MLSs of the world and states have come down very hard in the assignments. They want wholesalers in several states now to be licensed real estate agents to be able to do this type of transaction, whether it's on or off market. Many of them will not allow an assignment to be put on the MLS. In a novation, the home goes for sale. You can't even tell there's a difference between you being involved or just any regular Joe Schmo home seller.
Yeah, you're not even a visible party of the transaction, right? Like, but what the MLSs are cracking down on is listing with equitable interest. When you list a novation, you're not listing with equitable interest. The actual seller is listing the property for sale.
Yeah. How do you have a conversation with a seller? What does that look like?
So I'll give you you want the 90-second pitch real quick?
Give it to me.
So first and foremost, you need to start every single conversation with a seller, whether you're going to pitch Novations or creative finance or a subject to or whatever, with a cash offer, right? We call this a price anchor. So effectively, let's say I have a property that I know my wholesale offer could be $150. I'm going to price anchor them at $100,000. As we move through the negotiations, if they start to suggest that they could possibly come down to a number that I think would work, I'm going to say, well, Neil, it seems like we've come to a bit of a crossroads here. I feel like I'm getting pretty close to the maximum amount that I could offer you for the property under the terms that we've discussed. And I get the sense that you're kind of feeling the same way. I'm not sensing that you have a ton more flexibility. And they'll go, yeah, it's, I really like what you have to say. It's just, I don't care if you can close in a day. I'm not selling it for $100,000. I go, hey, I hear you loud and clear. I don't know if you know this or not, Neil, but as a salesperson in real estate and this line of business, for every 10 homeowners I talk to, 8 or 9 of them tell me no, thank you. And that can make for a very long day. It's hard sometimes to wake up in the morning and put my work boots on and run out the door and say, you know what, I can't wait to go talk to 10 people today because I know 8 or 9 of them are going to tell me no. So what I did is I got together with my owner, I got together with my partner, I got together with my investors, and I said, listen, we got to figure something out. 8 or 9 times out of 10, people are telling me no, and it almost always becomes about price. And there's got to be a way for us to pay people more money for nice houses, kind of like yours, Neil, where, we talked about maybe the house would benefit from some upgrades, but I mean, you've clearly taken very good care of it. And I think what you're saying is because I've taken such good care of my house, I feel like I deserve more money. And they'll go, well, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And so I said to my partner, so there's got to be a way for us to pay more money for these homes, but still be a smart investor. So after they got done laughing at me and told me I was a fool, I said, no, really, I think we ought to figure it out. So we did. And what we've put together is something we call our equity protection program. It's specifically designed for folks like you in situations like this to help you protect more of your equity, but maybe not go the normal route of selling a home and be able to enjoy the benefits and convenience of selling to someone like me. Now, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm not even sure that that's something that you would consider, but do me a favor. If you have any interest in maybe hearing more about that program, let me know and I'll spend 5 minutes and I'll walk you through it. And then they lean in and they go, well, yeah, how's that work? Do you think you get me qualified for that program? And then effectively what I do is I'll say, hey, I need permission from you to take the property to the open market. I don't say MLS, I say open market because I don't want to talk like a realtor. Otherwise, they'll want to think like a realtor. And I'll say, and then I'll need reasonable access. I say reasonable access. I won't say showings. Again, I don't use real estate agent language because every investor goes, dude, this is awesome, but why won't they just list it? Because we don't talk like it's a listing. We don't position it like it's a listing. Right. And what I'll tell them is I'll say, Neil, and you giving me permission to take it to the open market. I'm going to go out and aggressively market and pursue 4 different buyers. One buyer that'll buy it as is, but they need to get a home inspection. They're a little nervous about buying maybe their first home. They want to bring a termite inspector, a radon inspector, a home inspector through the property and spend a couple hours. And oftentimes they'll send me back a list of repairs. And most homeowners would get upset and they would say, deal's off, right? And a lot of folks actually, like yourself, want to avoid that altogether. And that's a lot of times why they'll call someone like me and they'll go, yeah, exactly. I don't want to deal with any of that crap. Right. So, and then they'll come back to me. And because we have great relationships with contractors and oftentimes we'll have a handyman on staff, I can fix those things and it only costs me a couple bucks. You're completely insulated from that. I've absorbed all of that responsibility and the buyer feels confident buying a house that's not fully renovated because they know that they had a home inspection and it passed their appraisal. Oftentimes we're selling to veterans or first-time home buyers that are using government-backed financing. And all of those loan programs have condition requirements that come with extra inspections over and above the termite. And they'll go, yeah, I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. Second buyer is someone that'll buy it as is, but maybe they want a kitchen. And they'll say, hey, I know a kitchen costs $10,000. We'll give you an extra $10,000 for the house, but we want a brand new kitchen. Now, the good thing about that, Neil, is the kitchen only cost me $6,000. So if we make a deal like that with a buyer, we're actually squeaking out a little bit more profit on the deal because we're doing an upgrade. Now, I don't want you to get worried. I'm not going to put a brand new kitchen in your house before I own it. If we ever do a deal like that with a buyer, we don't do that till long after settlement when they've gone to closing. You've gotten paid, we've settled up. And everybody's, sort of happy that the deal is done and we'll consider doing it after settlement. Third buyer is someone that may want a kitchen and they want to get that roof taken care of. You and I know it's okay, but maybe they just feel better having a brand new roof that's going to last 35 years. Same deal with a kitchen. They'll say, hey, I know a roof costs $15,000 because that's what retail value is. But our cost is maybe only $8,000 or $10,000. Again, we won't be putting a brand new roof on your house until we settle up. So you don't have to worry about me doing construction before you move out. Fourth option is, and geez, I hope this never happens, but we will consider it. We have someone that comes along and they want a full-blown renovation. They want to pick out custom cabinets and flooring and paint. We only ever do this if they pay us, quite frankly, an obnoxious amount of money for the property. They give us all of the money up front. And again, we wouldn't do those renovations till long after settlement when you've been paid and we've gotten settled up. So now we have a competitive advantage when we go to the open market. We're offering the property at 4 potential different prices with 4 potential buyers. I'm sure you've looked around or paid attention to what homes sell for. It's normally, hey, this is the price, take it or leave it, right? So that's what the program is. Those 4 options gives us the confidence to give you more money for your property. And, if you had any interest in that deal, I'd be more than happy to see if you qualify.
I love it. Tell me when you take it to market, do you actually have more than one price point inside of the remarks? Right,
we listed at one price. And by the way, 99% of the time, I never do option 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I just don't want to.
Yeah.
But I would, right? It's just when someone comes along and I'm $15,000 for a $5,000 kitchen, most often they say,
No.
But so what I do is I list it in its current condition, and I make sure that I've accounted for any inspection or appraisal repairs that would be in there. But you got to remember, these aren't fixer-uppers.
Correct.
These are move-in ready condition homes. Yep. So what you'll do when you learn Novations is you'll get really, really good at identifying potential FHA, VA inspection items or appraisal items, because those are the most, in this changing market, the most active buyer today is an FHA, VA buyer. And you know why? They couldn't participate in the low rate environment. When interest rates were 3%, right. FHA, VA buyers were getting trampled on.
Correct.
Because they need a little seller's help. They need to have an appraisal. They need to do a home inspection. And if seller had 5 offers and one was FHA, that was getting crumbled up and thrown out the window. It wasn't even being considered.
Correct.
So right now for FHA and VA buyers, this is their moment to shine. Matter of fact, depending on who you talk to, when rates go back down to say low 5s, this might be the last opportunity for an FHA, VA buyer that needs seller's help and a full-blown inspection to buy a house in the next decade. It literally may be. Because think about all the people that are on the sidelines right now that have 20% down, that can cover their closing costs, that are willing to do a home inspection. We saw that the last 3 years, right?
Correct. Yep.
A hyper-competitive. Now, I was in 2006 and 2007. Even back then, people weren't crazy enough to waive home inspections.
Correct.
They weren't waiving appraisals. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like an appraisal waiver.
Right.
Nuts. Absolutely bananas.
Yeah. Right.
So when we go back to whatever normal is, I'm fearful that FHA, VA home buyers are going to have a really hard problem, like tough time. Even I bet for the last 3 years, if you were an FHA buyer and you need $10,000 seller's help, I bet you couldn't even get a real estate agent to show you homes.
I'm trying to think I'm with you. I'm trying to think of the last FHA deal we would have accepted, outside the last 6 months. You're right. They just get thrown away.
Yeah, you didn't have, because you had 5 other options.
Correct. Yeah.
For some people that don't have, 10, 15% down and have higher DTI, the VA loan, I just did a sub 2 on a VA loan. That was 2.65% interest.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And that gentleman bought that house 2 years ago or so and put no money down. It's a $500,000 house. The payment's $1,600 a month. He's moving into a townhouse and paying $400 a month more than that. So, it's crazy. So right now, what we're absolutely just having a tremendous amount of success with is getting properties in front of FHA, VA buyers, and we're selling them. We're giving up maybe a little seller's help, right? But we're baking it right into the deal. We spend less than $1,000 on our Novation deals. It's for things like handrails, peeling paint on attic windows, missing GFCIs at bathroom sinks, like very simple stuff.
One of the things I like best about Novations is it's not you don't have to have some new marketing strategy. You have a different exit strategy. It's the same. You're doing the same stuff, talking to the same people. And now what you can do is do exactly what you've been doing and add on a whole new exit, a whole new revenue stream that just didn't exist for you before.
So it's a great point. Here's what I found. We study leads and conversions in batches of 100. For every 100 net leads, and by net leads, I mean someone that has a sincere interest in selling their home, we found that there's about 10% of those leads that are really good wholesale opportunities. These are typically people with high distress, properties in some form of disrepair, or their life is in disrepair, right? So either have a bad marriage or a bad roof. The reality of the situation is that's who we often buy wholesale properties from. Right. About 50% of those leads to 60% of those leads have zero motivation. They're the opposite of the ideal seller. And the property's in good condition. They got nothing going on in their life that offers any motivation or distress. We want to put them into a long-term nurture, keep in touch with them, continue to mail them, continue to call them and email them, but they're very likely to never convert. But then there's about 30-40%. So out of every 100 net leads, about 30 to 40 leads, I call them where they have a balanced seller seesaw, right? Where on one side you have motivation, there's a fair amount of motivation, and the property condition's pretty good. About 40% of all leads fit that description. They're not a good fit for wholesale, right? They're not going to sell it to us at 50 cents on the dollar. So every 100 net leads has 40 really good Novation opportunities, 4 times as many opportunities as you have in wholesale.
Margins, somebody can maybe be thinking, going, "Oh, Eric, this sounds great," but I make a killing wholesaling a property. I make a lot of money doing this or fixing and flipping a property.
Yeah.
There's got to be not much money inside these novations when you're dealing with just a little bit of equity in comparison to a fix and flip or a wholesale deal. But it's just not the case, is it?
$26,900 for 300 plus people we've taught it to the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing. Once you learn novations, you can novate your wholesale deals, right? So once you have the novation language baked into your contract and you know how to set the expectations with a seller, you can still contract it at a wholesale price. But now you've gotten permission to take it to the open market. And so the other way I find cash buyer, you know who has the best buyers list in the world?
I would guess realtors.
Yeah, the MLS.
The MLS, yeah.
Right. So like if you think about the normal wholesale deal, like half of your job is building this killer buyers list.
Right.
And then on that buyers list, we almost always fill it with seasoned investors.
Correct.
Right. Well, what do seasoned investors pay for properties in a down market?
Correct. Yeah. Not as much. Yeah. Discount.
So who pays the most for property every single month in every market? First time investors.
That's right.
They buy the highest volume of deals and they pay the most. But first-time investors aren't on your buyer's list. They haven't bought a property yet.
Correct.
The first-time investor typically called up a real estate agent, maybe the guy they bought the house from or the girl that they bought their residence from. And they go, hey, I want to get into investing. Can you show me the bank-owned properties and fixer-uppers? And they go, yeah. And then I ask every single person that goes, what kind of deal did you get on your first investment property? Everybody always has a nightmare of I paid way too much. I go, yeah, wouldn't you like to sell to you when you were a first-time investor? Well, that's what happens with novations, right? So if you buy a house for 100 and you would typically sell it off market to someone on your buyer's list for 120, when you take that deal to the open market, and let's say it's in okay condition and it'll sell to an owner occupant, you'll double your profit, right? Instead of selling to I always say it like this, the general business of wholesale is buying a needle in a haystack. You're buying a high distress, super, fixer-upper property at 50 cents on the dollar. It's a fraction of sellers out there, a fraction of properties. And then once you buy that needle in the haystack, you have to go sell it to another needle in a different haystack. Yep. You have to find a cash buyer that knows how to do renovations and understands the investment game. When you're doing novations, you can buy a large portion of the haystack, and then you get to take it and sell it to the haystack. Right. So it opens up a tremendous amount of opportunity, and we stop playing on such a small field.
That and your ability to take it to MLS, what you'll still see. I don't know if you would agree with this, but we're still seeing it in my market. Depending on the deal, we're still getting multiple offers. We'll still run the price. We just went under contract with a deal we've novated yesterday, and ended up 5 offers. 4 or 5 are over the list. Yeah, you can depending on the deal. If it's a good enough deal in any market, it'll still run up over the list price.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, it's incredible. And tell me about you're training people, coaching people. I guess tell me more about that world, about how people learn from you.
Yeah, we do. So I've been doing novations since I really started doing them heavy in 2011. I started at actually public auctions because they were really great novation opportunities. They were solid mechanical homes in good condition that were clean but slightly outdated. And I would wait till every other bidder was done, and they would go, no, it didn't meet reserve. And I'd walk right up to the attorney, the auctioneer, and the seller and say, hey, I think I can get you closer to your reserve as long as you gave me 90 days and a key. And, so I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah. I first talked about this about 4 years ago at a mastermind that I'm in, and I presented on it, and then I got swarmed in the hallway afterwards. And everybody was like, what in the heck did you just present there? Well, how does this all work? And then for the next about 3 months, I spent a ton of time on Zoom calls, and then the word kind of got out, and I was like, I either have to start telling people no, or I'm going to have to hire a few people and charge for this. Yeah. So what we currently do now is we offer a program, and we do a 2-hour onboarding call where when people come in, we spend 2 hours, 1 hour of focused sales. How do you pitch it? How do you overcome objections? How do we price anchor? And then the other hour that we do is very operations. What's the paperwork look like? The addendums? How do we get this through TC? How do we get paid? Right? Very big deal. How do you get paid? Yeah. They're very different on innovation. How do we teach this? And most people are teaching it too. They're the only person right now doing it in their market. So their title company has never heard of it. Correct. And trust me, they'll mess it up if you don't show how to do it correctly. Yep. So we do that on a 2-hour onboarding call. I give them my full library of documents that I've created over the last 11 years. And then we do 12 weeks worth of coaching, teaching, and then Q&A calls. And then I have a library of 30 plus videos that I've recorded that walks you through each step of a deal, and you get private access to that for you and anybody on your team.
People want to, there's a lot there. Obviously, you're going to hit the ground running real quick. For people who want to find you, they want to learn more about that. Where can they go? What should they do?
You can go to brewermethod.com. There's tons of information about the course, a boatload of testimonials. There's HUDs on there. We actually show you HUDs from settlements that we did. So you can see that we're actually doing this and not just teaching. I've done over 1,200 Novation deals since 2011. So yeah, then you can follow me if you want. I talk about this stuff. I give it away for free. I do 2-3 videos a day, just like we talked about. I do the pitch once a week because people love the pitch, right?
Yeah.
It's like literally the pitch is probably the easiest part of doing Novations, but
Sure.
For real estate investors, right? We love sales.
Yes.
So I do that stuff. You can follow me on social media. I'm super active on Instagram. It's Eric_Brewer_invest.
Perfect. All those links will be down below in the show notes for everybody. Let's do this, man. I want to move on to the final segment, what I call 4-4 impact. Your favorite quote: be grateful for what you already have while you pursue your goals. If you aren't grateful for what you have, what makes you think you'd be happy with more? Roy T. Bennett said it. What about that resonates with you?
So I read a book not so long ago, really changed my life. It's called The Gap in the Gain. And it talks about how we often as entrepreneurs are always looking out into the future and measuring our success against where we currently are versus our, sort of vision for where we want to be. And it can be debilitating, right? Like no matter how much progress we make, we always shoot for the stars and reach for more, which is exceptional when it comes to being an entrepreneur, but it can steal your joy. And, what Dr. Ben Hardy talked about in that book is to constantly measure backwards. So I started this after I read the book, and at the conclusion of each day, I write down 3 gains that I had that day. Now, you might say sometimes I have a really bad day and I failed. Dr. Ben Hardy would tell you that every failure should be converted into a lesson. Mm-hmm. So even if you failed at every single thing you tried to do that day, you should have learned something about yourself.
Right.
And then we talk about identifying the 3 priorities for the next day. So I do this at the end of every night. I do, what are my 3 gains for the day and what are my 3 priorities for the next day? And it really changed my perspective on things. So that combined with, I think, just living a life of gratitude is super important. I think resentment and entitlement sets in when we lose sight of gratitude. So I'm just a big believer in gratitude, and that quote really resonates with me.
What do you think holds most investors back from hitting their personal next level?
What holds them back from their personal next level? I think the fear of failure. I think, I can tell you this, we have an organization of 35 people. We did almost 400 transactions last year. And I'm at a place now where I do not play an active role in the running of our business. I'm almost effectively completely moved into an owner's position rather than an operator's position. And the change that I had to make professionally and personally, spiritually, from going from a manager to a leader was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I wanted to quit multiple times because literally every habit or behavior that I embraced to get me to where I was were the exact behaviors I needed to abandon to get me to where I wanted to be. So breaking through that ceiling oftentimes means leaving all of our beliefs and all of our old habits behind. And that's hard to do because they got us to where we are, right? If I row a life raft all the way to this, beautiful island, if I want to go to the next island, I'm going to tend to want to go back and get that life raft again, even if there's a powered jet ski laying there, right?
Right.
So I think that's the toughest part is understanding that each phase of life and each phase of business nearly requires us to abandon the beliefs and the behaviors that got us to this plateau that we're at right now.
It's interesting. Outside of real estate, what are you most passionate about?
Children.
Yeah.
I had a relatively challenging childhood, and I think it's part of what made me the resilient person that I am today. But I often want to go back and I feel like I want to rescue kids from, challenging circumstances between the age of, say, like 12 and late teens, because it's such an impressionable, I got sidetracked. My parents kind of went through a divorce, and I was left to sort of manage and watch over myself from the age of 14 till I graduated high school. And I got off track. I got kicked out of school. I started drinking at a young age. I missed 70 days of school my sophomore year. And it wasn't until I was almost 30 years old that I wouldn't say fully recovered, but I had started to recover from that and was able to get back on track. So I'm super passionate about teaching people at a young age how to lead, how to make quality decisions, how to identify what makes them happy. And you think about this, right? Like at the age of 18, I don't know about you, but I had no clue what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And these kids are being pushed into making decisions about college and degrees and what they want to do forever and ever. And we're just not ready. Like at the age of 18, there's no way you have enough experience to have a clue what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I'm really big on I just love being around children and trying to positively impact. I've coached a lot of youth sports. I have 5, soon to be 6 children. I play a very active part in being a parent. I love coaching. I have 4 daughters, so that means that I need to start learning how to be a cheer coach, which might be hard for me, but I'm certainly going to give it a try.
We'll put you at the bottom of the pyramid, man.
I'll be a good base. Yeah. Wouldn't be a good flyer.
What's your favorite way to make an impact in the community?
Teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super active on social media and I don't run ads. I just teach. And, it's very rewarding for me. Coaching and teaching seems to be my thing. It's what I love the most. I do it for free and I'll get up early and stay up late if I get a chance to teach somebody something, and then watching them implement the things that I've taught them and seeing that have an impact on them is the thing that gives me joy.
Yeah, that's great. Eric, I really appreciate you taking the time to connect up here. You've got a tremendous story and very interesting background about how you came out of the car business. And like so many of us, not many of us go to school to come to get into real estate. We all stumble in this business one way or another. And your ability to get in this business and what you've been able to do, and now how you're really making an impact in a lot of ways. But your teaching ability for Novations, it opens tremendous doors and tremendous opportunity for people once they grasp the concept and grasp how to be able to do it. It's really good. It's really deeply impactful. So I appreciate the work you're doing for the community.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So thanks so much for your time, Eric.
I appreciate it.
You bet. For everybody here, Real Grit, I'm Neil Timmins, reminding that real estate requires real grit. See you next time. What if I told you can make 20 times the return of a single family fix and flip on your next big deal? Well, it's actually possible. It's possible inside the world of commercial real estate. Say, I'm inviting you to this free challenge. It starts August 15th. It's totally free. It's a 5-day challenge where I'm going to take you and deep dive into the world of commercial real estate, more specifically, capital multiplier properties, what that is, how we identify them. I'm going to show you how to identify them, how to evaluate them, and how to lock them up risk-free. I'm going to give you all the paperwork to do it. It's totally free. You can sign up to join us at www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. That's www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. And I'll see you in the chat. If you like our content and want more, you can access it at realgritpodcast.com. You hear it guest after guest. Instinctively, you already know it. But let me call it out. The most expensive action is inaction. The real estate market is full of opportunities. You just need to uncover them. You can build a business that lasts for years, makes monumental impact in the lives of those that you love. It's not just about business, but about the freedom you get because of it. Have you ever heard the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I believe that partnering is essential. In fact, I partner with hardworking investors all the time. The point is that you can get a lot further with the right partner. Let me say it again, the right partner. If you've ever thought about partnering with anyone, or if you have a partner now, I encourage you to download my free Partner and Profit Guide, which includes the top 5 must-answer questions to evaluate a profitable partnership. You can find it at www.legacyimpactpartners.com. I'll see you in the next episode.